You walk onto a car lot feeling ready to buy. You sign papers 3 hours later, and then you look at your bank account and wonder what just happened. That specific moment, when "I can afford the payment" turns into "How long am I stuck with this?" is where most people lose years of financial progress without ever realizing it. Cars are useful. They're also engineered to eat cash. I'm going to walk you through the actual numbers, the psychological tricks salespeople and lenders use, and a practical number-first method that tells you exactly how much car your salary can responsibly buy at 4 common income levels: $50,000, $75,000, $100,000, and $150,000. I'll show the real monthly costs, the assumptions you need to verify for yourself, and why the same monthly payment logic that dealers push is almost always the wrong way to decide. This isn't abstract theory. It's math and behavior, and both matter equally. Let's start by understanding the scale of the market right now. Average monthly auto payments are not small anymore, and they've been climbing for years. Recent industry data puts the average new car payment somewhere in the mid-700s per month, while used car payments land in the low to mid-500s. Lenders are stretching loans longer than ever, and buyers are taking on larger principal balances. The average loan amount for a new car is now north of $40,000. Those numbers reset the baseline for what affordable even looks like as we move through 2025 and into 2026. If you don't translate that reality into a personal monthly plan that works for your specific situation, those industry averages will quietly swallow your cash flow whole. Dealers push monthly payments for a reason. A smaller monthly number feels harmless in the moment. It feels manageable. What they don't show you is the loan term, the total interest cost, or what happens when the car inevitably needs an expensive repair while you're still making payments on a long loan. The monthly figure is a psychological trick designed to separate you from your long-term thinking. The total cost, the depreciation, and the opportunity cost are what actually determine whether a car helps you or holds you back. Depreciation is the silent tax that applies to every single car on the road. New vehicles typically lose around 20% of their value in the first 12 months alone, and many models lose 40% or more over the first 3 years. By the 5-year mark, typical depreciation trajectories put most cars below half their original price. That's why buying brand new is expensive in ways that go beyond the monthly payment. You're paying full retail price for an asset that immediately drops in resale value the moment you drive it off the lot. If you plan to sell or trade the car within a few years, that depreciation hit becomes the single biggest driver of your real cost per mile. Total cost of ownership goes far beyond just the payment and depreciation. When you factor in insurance, fuel, registration, routine maintenance, and unexpected repairs, the total annual costs add up faster than most people expect. Recent analyses show that total yearly costs of owning and running a new vehicle can sit around the low 5-figure range when you include everything: insurance, fuel, maintenance, finance charges, and depreciation. That means even a car with a deceptively low payment can easily cost you $800 to $1,000 a month once you add the rest. If you base your affordability calculation on the monthly loan figure alone, you're missing a huge part of the financial picture, and that gap is where the trouble starts. There's another baseline that intersects with car affordability, and it's household savings. A lot of people buying expensive cars don't have meaningful emergency savings to fall back on. Surveys consistently show that a significant share of adults don't have 3 months of basic expenses set aside. If you're carrying large car payments and you have no emergency buffer, a single job loss or a transmission failure becomes a catastrophic event rather than an inconvenience. Cars are one of the most predictable areas of expense in your life. Treat them like it, and finance them only if you have a plan for shocks, because shocks always come eventually. All right, let's get into the practical part. I'll use rules that most financial planners talk about, but I'll be completely explicit with the assumptions and show you the math so you can replicate it for yourself. Here are the rules. Aim to keep your total transportation costs, that's payments plus insurance plus fuel plus maintenance, under 10% of your take-home pay for a reasonable budget, or under 8% if you want to be conservative and build wealth faster. Put down 20% if you possibly can, and finance for no longer than 4 years whenever possible. Shorter loans cost more per month, but they save you thousands in interest and dramatically reduce the chance that you end up underwater on the loan. I'll assume a 20% down payment, a 4-year loan, and a realistic APR for new car financing in the current market, which is around the mid-single digits to low sevens for well-qualified buyers. Used car APRs are often much higher, so keep that in mind. I'll also assume modest insurance and fuel costs that scale reasonably with income levels. These assumptions are conservative, but they're realistic, and they'll give you a solid foundation. Let's run the numbers with clear inputs so you can see exactly how these limits translate into actual vehicle price ranges. For each salary tier, I'll show a typical monthly take-home estimate, the 10% and 8% transport budgets, an assumed slice for insurance and fuel, and then the maximum car price that fits the remaining monthly payment given a 4-year loan and a 6.5% APR. If your local insurance or gas costs are higher than what I'm using here, plug your own numbers into the same method, and you'll get a more accurate result for your situation. Here's how the math works. Your monthly transport budget equals your monthly take-home pay multiplied by the rule percentage. Your car payment budget equals your monthly transport budget minus your estimated insurance and gas costs. The loan principal that matches that payment at a given APR and term is what you actually finance, and your vehicle price equals that financed principal divided by 0.8 to account for the 20% down payment. If you earn $50,000 a year, your realistic monthly take-home pay is about $3,400 after taxes. 10% of that is $340, and 8% is $272. If your combined insurance and fuel bill runs roughly $150 a month, that leaves you with $190 per month for a car payment if you follow the 10% rule, and $122 per month if you follow the 8% rule. Using a 4-year loan at 6.5% interest, a $190 monthly payment equates to roughly a $10,000 vehicle price with 20% down, while a $122 payment maps to roughly $6,400. That's not glamorous, I know, but it buys reliable older compact or subcompact models with higher mileage. Cars that, if they're properly inspected and maintained, will carry you reliably while you continue to grow your income and your savings. The alternative, pushing up to whatever the dealers are willing to approve you for, is the path to payments that outpace the car's residual value and leave you stuck underwater for years. Be brutally honest with the numbers here. Now move up to $75,000 a year. A reasonable post-tax monthly figure is about $5,100. 10% of that gives you $510, and 8% gives you $408. If you assume insurance and fuel at $200 a month, that leaves roughly $310 for a payment under the 10% rule and $208 under the 8% rule. At 6.5% APR over 4 years, those payment levels translate to vehicle prices in the $16,000 range on the more generous rule and about $11,000 on the conservative rule. That opens up certified pre-owned late-model small sedans and compact SUVs that are still economical to maintain and insure. This is also the income band where dealers really start pushing financing for nicer trims and longer loan terms because they know buyers at this level often confuse the bank's approval with responsible buying. Don't fall for it. If you make $100,000 a year, assume take-home pay around $6,800 monthly. 10% of that is $680 and 8% is $544. Subtract $250 for insurance and fuel, and you have about $430 a month available for a payment under the 10% guideline, or $294 under the 8% guideline. Those payment figures support cars priced roughly $22,500 to $23,000 at a 4-year term and 6.5% APR on the generous rule, and about $15,500 on the conservative rule. At this level, you can get into late-model compact luxury, well-equipped mid-size sedans, or low-mileage used SUVs without mortgaging your future. Resist the "I deserve it" trap, because most long-term wealth builders drive cars that are fine, not flashy, and they let the difference compound over time. Finally, at $150,000 a year, take-home pay might be near $9,100 a month depending on your location and tax situation. 10% is $910, and 8% is $728. Subtracting roughly $300 for insurance and gas leaves you with $610 and $428 for loan payments, respectively. On a 4-year loan at 6.5% APR, $610 a month lines up with a vehicle price in the low $32,000, and $428 supports a vehicle around $22,500. That buys a comfortable, well-equipped mid-size vehicle or a modest luxury compact without sacrificing your savings goals. Even at this income level, the temptation to go much higher is real, but the trap is thinking that a higher income means an unlimited car budget. It doesn't. Keeping the car decision within these lanes preserves your ability to invest, to travel, to build security, and to sleep well at night. Those price ranges aren't random numbers I pulled out of thin air. They reflect what happens when you treat transportation as a line item in a household budget rather than a disposable status expense. If you cheat the rules by stretching the loan to 6 or 7 years just to hit a monthly payment that fits, the math punishes you every single time. Longer terms lower the monthly cost on paper, but they increase total interest and dramatically raise the chance that your loan balance exceeds your car's market value for years. Experian data shows that many buyers already take loans that stretch 6 years or longer, which keeps monthly payments manageable on the surface, but locks buyers into higher total costs and slower equity buildup underneath. Here's a concrete example you can run in your head. Suppose 2 people earn the same $75,000 salary. Sarah buys a $35,000 SUV with a 7-year loan because the dealer made the monthly payment look affordable. Her monthly commitment for the car alone ends up near $650 to $700 once you add insurance, fuel, and routine maintenance. Her total transport cost ends up being 15 to 18% of her gross income or more, which squeezes her savings and forces trade-offs everywhere else. Mike, on the other hand, buys a $15,000 certified pre-owned sedan with a 3-year payoff schedule and a $395 monthly payment. When Mike finishes paying off his car, he takes that $395 and rolls it into investments every month. Over 10 years, assuming a modest 7% average annual return, that reinvested money compounds into the tens of thousands of dollars. Sarah is still making payments, and if she needs to sell or trade early, she likely owes more than the car is worth. There's also the matter of interest rates and how they vary by credit profile and by whether you're buying new or used. Average APRs for new car loans recently sit in the high single digits to low 7s for well-qualified buyers, while used car APRs can land in the low double digits depending on your credit score. That difference makes used cars heavier on monthly interest when financed, which is why the best strategy often involves buying used but doing so with a larger down payment or buying slightly newer used models that still carry reasonable rates. Shop rates before you ever set foot in a dealership. Shop local credit unions and online lenders. Don't assume the dealer's financing is the cheapest you can find, because it almost never is. Let's talk practical negotiation and checklist items that actually move the needle. First, always calculate the total cost, the payment, the insurance, and a realistic estimate for fuel and maintenance. If you're buying new, calculate the depreciation over 3 years and factor that into your thinking. Always ask for the out-the-door price, not the monthly payment. If a dealer counters with X dollars per month, ask them to show you the interest rate, the loan term, and the total amount financed in writing. Second, push for the shortest loan you can afford that still fits your plan. The difference between a 48-month loan and a 72-month loan is thousands of dollars in interest and years of potential negative equity. Third, never finance add-ons you don't actually need. Gap insurance, paint protection, and extended warranties are sometimes useful, but dealers mark them up heavily. If the dealer insists, take the car home and buy those products elsewhere at far lower cost, or better yet, self-insure by setting aside the same monthly amount into a dedicated savings account. If this video changed how you think about buying a car, hit that like button, subscribe for more real money advice, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Drop a comment below with your salary and what car you're thinking about, and I'll help you break it down.